I wasn't kidding when I said I was going to do some Brawl Stars videos, guys. I love this game. This game is awesome. I got it yesterday and I played a lot of it. I think I've done enough on Showdown, which is one of my favorite game modes, to talk about some tips to help you gain trophies easily as a beginner. A lot of these tips are going to be basic, but reiterating them and going over them will help you focus on what is important to do in these games. Brawl Stars is the new Supercell game, by the way, guys, and I absolutely love it. It's one of the most skill-based games they've ever done. So the first tip that we're going to talk about is pay attention to the map. As you load in, you're going to want to pay attention to where the crates are in relation to where you're going to spawn. This will help you make decisions in the early game about whether these are the crates that you're going to contest or these are the crates that you're going to avoid. In this particular case, I see a Primo above me and a Shelly below me, so that makes the decision for me. I don't want to get pincered between these two guys contesting the crates on the outside, which brings me on to my next point. Avoid unnecessary early fights, especially if you are one of the weaker ranged heroes. The reason being if you're a weaker ranged brawler, that melee and close range brawlers do better at contesting crates in general in a 1v1 basis, because you have to get up close and personal to pick the power up, which means they are going to be pulling you into the range that they want to fight at. So, if you're a ranged hero, try and avoid unnecessary fights, try and find unique and creative ways to get to areas that are not being contested on the map right now. If you do need to contest, make sure you try and do it from range, and always try and chase the opponent down after the box has been taken. Do not try and get into a close range brawl as a ranged brawler trying to go for a single power up. You can always chase them down after the box is already gone. Tip 3, be a predator. Hunt the low levels, especially when you've started to snowball. This might not be as relevant if you haven't had the best early game in the world, but when you have picked up a lot of power-ups in the early game, you want to go and make sure that you're putting your mark on the map and hunting the lower levels. This helps you snowball further and puts you in a position where you'll be very hard to kill as the game progresses. For instance, in this game, I'm now at 11 power-ups compared to pretty much 2 and 3s across the board for the rest of my enemies. Tip 4, zone your enemies, especially when you're in a range versus melee matchup or you're strong. As the gas moves in, you want the gas to do the work for you. You want it to pressure your enemies as you keep them pinned behind walls. This is called zoning, and it's really, really important. You'll notice I do the same thing here. I want the gas to pressure my enemy, so I want to block the entrances to the middle of the map, holding the middle of the ground until I find the right opportunity to strike. You need to put the pressure on the enemy, and the gas can do that for you if you're in a good matchup or you're already strong. If you don't know what any of the terms mean, by the way, guys, feel free to ask me in the comments below and I'll try and explain them. This definitely feels quite basic to a lot of people, but again, the basic tips are the ones that we want to practice to make sure that we are getting into good habits. As you know, we said before, when the map spawns in, we're going to see where those crates are in relation. We're going to check where the enemies are as well, and then that means we can make a decision about whether we're going to go for the boxes. Don't neglect easy box takes. I know it can be tempting to go straight to the middle of the map and hit the jackpot, but if you are faced with unopposed boxes on the side of the map, they are just free real estate waiting to be claimed. I actually don't know what happened in this game, by the way. Apparently no one was anywhere and I decided to go and get pretty much every power up I physically could. But don't neglect those easy box takes, because they are essentially going to put you on level pegging with a lot of the mid-game fights, and that is really important. Just by having 2 or 3 power-ups, you could probably go toe-to-toe with a lot of the people who have got early kills from the fights that happen in the start of the game. Tip number 6, be an opportunist. Let the enemies do your work for you. Remember, if you can avoid an engage, it is usually going to be better for you in the long run. Kills mean nothing in this game mode other than snowballing. The best way to climb trophies in general is just try and make it to the top 3 by hiding most of the time. But that's no fun, and no one really wants to do that. So you want to try and avoid fighting for as long as possible, let the enemies do your work for you, and once they are finished fighting and the power-ups have been claimed, or even before the power-ups have been claimed, that's when you go in, find your opportunity, and try and pick up some kills. Tip number 7. Don't hold your super forever. People are very tempted to look for the perfect moment to use their super. You charge your super ridiculously quickly in Brawl Stars. Do not hold it for that one perfect ultimate where you're going to get 2 or 3 people. Especially on Shelly, like you can see here. She charges it insanely quickly, and it is a great 1v1 super just to pick up that extra bit of damage on the kill. So, don't hold it. Just use it in every opportunity that you feel it's necessary. I usually use it in any situation where I'm stuck in a 1v1, unless I'm like massively out-leveling them. I usually use my ultimate just to blow someone up on Shelly, for instance. There are times that I'll use it to break terrain to try and move in on the enemy, but yeah, don't hold your super forever, because remember, in Brawl Stars you charge them really quickly and there is just no need to hold on to that. Again, like I said, we are really focusing on just basic tips to allow us to be more proactive in especially the lower level trophy games as we climb. I know a lot of these will be difficult to enact as you climb higher and higher up the trophy ladder. I myself am obviously only been playing for about a day, so I'm not exactly the pro, but a lot of tips that you can use from other Battle Royale game modes apply to Showdown. Tip number 8, use boxes as well as objects as blockers. Especially good versus really long range heroes or projectile heroes. Boxes can be great blockers, not only by blocking enemy shots, they also do the work for you by shooting the box. So you just then sit behind the box, let them waste their ammo, pick up the power up, and then you can chase them down being fully loaded up. Tip number 9, make sure you know when to chase and when to disengage. Most of you will have been playing your favourite brawler and you'll know exactly the limits of their 1v1 potential the more that you play them. However, don't take every fight that you're presented with. Sometimes it is better to run away and find a better opportunity than just run headfirst into a situation. For instance, right there were 3 brawlers over on the right hand side of the map. That reduces my chances of coming out alive just by the fact that there are 3 people that could potentially kill me. I let them kill each other, and then when they come to me, I will make sure I clean up. Tip number 10, make sure that you use the brushes, especially as melee and close range heroes. A lot of time people won't check the brushes and they will walk straight past you, giving you the best opportunity to land maximum damage impact on some of the squishier ranged heroes. Just like this guy did right here, he walked straight into me. But as a counterpoint to that, make sure you do check brushes as ranged heroes. A Molotov or a couple of shots just into a brush to check it to make sure you don't get caught with your pants down could be all the difference to keeping you alive. So it goes both ways. Make sure you do check, but make sure you also utilize that as a melee and a close range hero. Tip number 11, pick the right brawler for the right mode. Most brawlers are not as viable on solo as they are in duo. For instance, Penny, that I am playing in this particular clip, is not good in solo. Her single target damage is not great. She has a lot of snowball potential, but she's so squishy and honestly requires someone to work with to give her the protection that she needs. For instance, myself and I'm the Doom here are running Jessie Penny combo because we have a double turret ultimate, which is very good zone control. But I wouldn't run Penny in solo. For instance, I take Shelly because she's a really good solo carry in the solo Showdown game mode. Always try and think about the pairing that you're working together when playing in duo as well. You do like to have a bit of synergy. For instance, you want to run maybe a tanky front line with a big hitting ranged carry in the back. That's very, very viable. Try things, see what works for you, but just remember, not everything is viable in solo as it will be in duo. Duo gives a lot more breadth to the heroes or the brawlers that you can play. Tip number 12. Always try to recharge after a fight. Don't run headfirst into trying to kill people over and over again. Give yourself a bit of time between taking a kill if you can. Even if you're getting chased, try and body block and break line of sight to make sure that you have that regeneration on charge, because you want to make sure you're healthy for the next time that you engage someone. You don't want to just constantly find yourself fighting and not given the opportunity, because even if you do start to snowball and pick up those power-ups, the damage will have been done between the fights. So make sure that you are just giving yourself the time in between engages to get that health back. I know that sounds obvious, but by practicing it actively, you also increase your practice for dodging, body blocking, breaking line of sight, and all of those things are really useful across Brawl Stars in general. Tip number 13, don't rush a 1v1, especially when you're really far ahead. Rushing can just sometimes lead to underestimating your opponent. Always make sure that you give yourself the time and space to judge where and when you should be using your skills. I don't like to underestimate people, even if they are multiple levels below me. I always treat my opponent as if they've got their ultimate and are fully stacked in ammo, and that gives me the best possible opportunity to take things slow and let the terrain and the gas do the work for me. Don't rush, make sure you put yourself in a solid winning position, and you should come out on top. I know we're going through these fairly quickly, guys, but if you have any questions, please feel free to throw them in the comments below. I know I'm not like a 500 trophy player, I've only been playing a day or so, but I do generally tend to adapt to mobile games really well. I've done it for CNC Rivals, I've done it for Vainglory, and I intend to do it for Brawl Stars as well as time goes on. Tip number 14. Remember, kills don't matter for trophies. This is something that I think a lot of low-level players will forget, and they'll constantly look to just try and fight over and over again. If your main goal is to grind trophies in this game, especially when you're playing Showdown on solo, remember that kills don't actually matter. Kills are great if you want to try and win the game, especially if you're trying to snowball with the power-ups, but just by getting top 4, top 3, you're going to get a net positive trophy gain. So you're always going to be climbing, especially if you just manage to survive until the end in this game mode. So it means that if you find yourself in an awkward fight, or you find yourself outnumbered or outleveled by certain people, just try to avoid them for as long as possible. Remember, if you just make it to the top, you actually give yourself the best opportunity to grind trophies. And tip number 15, this is something that I found really helpful across all of Brawl Stars. Don't try and aim everything. A lot of people are tempted to do all the hard work themselves and aim every single shot that they take to try and make it pinpoint perfect. Sometimes just tapping on the attack button is really powerful, especially if you're up close and personal and the enemy is just skirting around you and it's very difficult to land that right angle as it's changing all the time. Just by tapping, it's going to automatically fire in the right direction that you want it to. Don't underuse the tap function on the basic attack. It can be really powerful and can honestly win you a lot of fights. Aiming is great when you're trying to zone like this, but when you get into that really down and dirty, really important 1v1 potential parts, just make sure you're tapping, because especially with your ultimate, you don't want to miss it. So, these are some basic tips to help you get on the right foot and start grinding trophies in Showdown. I've really enjoyed Brawl Stars so far. I hope you guys have as well. It's an awesome game. I'm hoping by next month or so I should have a few 500 trophy brawlers, but honestly I'm really loving this game so far. It is awesome, and I hope you guys are too.